Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm not joined by my co-hosts yet, Michael and Reed. They will be here very, very soon. But the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. We are rejoined by special guest of this episode, Mr. Felix Trammell. Thank you so much for blessing us on this Thursday evening, sir. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Always glad to be here, man.
Absolutely. And I gotta talk to you because I saw that PFF Sam Monson had made a comment about Sam Howell and kind of what he offers to the Washington offense. It seems like there's a lot of people hopping on this Sam Howell train, Felix, and this wasn't really happening last summer.
I think he was a product of his senior year. Carolina had a lot of young guys around him his senior year, and he didn't look as good. And I mean, as with most people, when your talent level around you goes down, your play goes down. So they were in a lot of shootouts. They had a lot of bad decisions. He was trying to make plays. But if you look at the previous year when the team went to the Orange Bowl, the Tar Heels, he was one of the top quarterbacks out there. So I think people are just starting to realize and just see some of the chatter of the people who've seen him during OTAs and mini camp and stuff, and seeing that potential's there. And more people kind of like, okay, this might work, because you combine that talent set with Eric Bieniemy and his offense. The ingredients are there. So I think that's what you're kind of seeing. That's why you kind of hear that hubbub going around about, okay, Sam Howell might be that guy, because you know, in March and heck, last year, he would see him in tiers, and he's in the bottom tier. He's behind backups and just all this stuff. And I'm like, some of these things you need to slow down. You actually got to see the people play. And we only got to see 4 quarters of it. So it's still early, very early.
And to your point, I think it was PFF who had come out with a quarterback ranking and had put him below Desmond Ridder, Bryce Young, all the other quarterbacks, to your point there. But Sam Howell's going to need to depend on his pass catchers, and one being Logan Thomas, who I saw a headline said he was fully healthy in a tight end friendly offense. Talk to me about Logan Thomas. Have you heard any rumblings about how he's looked through minicamp? Because that's a name that everyone has been talking about this offseason, and that Sam Howell's going to need to depend on him come September.
Yeah, Logan had that great 2020 season, and then 2021, he just kept getting injured. And he kind of rushed back last year because of the injuries to the younger guys. So he was never really himself. And the offensive line struggled a lot. So there was a lot of blocking. So it wasn't a lot of go pass, tight end, go be a receiver. So I think seeing him, he still had the brace on, but he looked more fluid. He looked more energetic. And I think that would be the difference I would use. It looked like he had an energy, a burst to him that you honestly didn't see last year. He was there and he was giving his all. He's a competitor, but he just didn't seem active. And this year he seems active. And I think that's going to bode well for him because, like you said, this is a tight end friendly offense. Not saying he's Travis Kelce. There aren't many Travis Kelces, but the scheme, and you know that the scheme is going to be a scheme for you to be an offensive weapon. I think that brightens up things for Logan. So I think a full off season of being completely healthy, he just looks more energetic. And I think that will help the offense tremendously. Just him being like energy and full of himself, like being able to compete all game long.
Yeah, and that's something that a lot of people have harped on with Logan, his inability to separate from defenders, and I get that, but him being more energized might help with that. But you had brought up Travis Kelce, and his tight end camp, I believe, is this week or was last week, and Cole Turner was there, another tight end. Isn't that great for a young tight end in Cole Turner? And I can't think of anybody more perfect for Cole Turner to kind of learn from.
It's in harping on Logan blocking. We had Cole Turner as an inline blocking tight end. That was just insane. And all camp, last year's camp, he was making all these plays. He got hurt with the hamstring. And then after that, you never got to see him featured as a receiver. And so I think it's amazing that he understands that, goes to that Travis Kelce camp. I think it was this week. There's no better person to learn from. It's the guy that's been in this offense. Ask him questions. What is this leverage play? Because there's a lot of option stuff in Bieniemy's offense. You got to understand the nuances of what you're reading, what you're seeing. How does Bieniemy want you to do on this route? It's one thing to call it an in cutting route, but does he want you to break on 5 steps or 4 steps, or how does he want you to set up? There's little nuances, things that he can learn from Travis Kelce. So it's good to see Cole Turner doing that, because I mean that shows a want to get better. And I think a lot of times we had a lot of guys that sat on their laurels, where I did the work and I can do it, I can figure it out. But be honest, I mean, there are a few superstars in this game, and Travis Kelce is a superstar. So if he's and other good tight ends are doing that, you should be there learning all that you can learn.
Absolutely. I love hearing the sound of that. Last offseason, one player in Jeremy Reeves was on the bubble, possibly not being able to make this roster, inevitably did make the roster, and then went to the Pro Bowl. So who is somebody that is not highly coveted or talked about on this team that is going to be, you can predict or see them being very important by the time the season comes to an end? Hey, Felix, you there? Hey, Felix, you there? Oh, my internet's going out.
Kaliki Hudson, the forgotten man. Yeah.
I'm with you with Kalik. I'm sorry, my internet's sort of going crazy. So keep going on.
Can you hear me now?
Kalik.
You're good?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. So Kalik Hudson would be the one. And people are like, Kalik, and he's smaller, but there's something different about Kalik this year. And the way the system's working, it's not a linebacker featured defense. Jamin's going to be that guy. But Kaleki's going to see the field, and I think he's going to have impact on special teams, and he's going to be there. And there was one of the OTAs I went to. Eric Bieniemy that day was targeting the linebackers. He went after Kaleki a lot, and a couple times Kaleki got beat, but a few times Kaleki was right there. So you can just see that competitiveness in him. So if I had to say an under the radar guy that's kind of been a fringe guy, would be Kaleki Hudson. I think he honestly makes the roster, and I think he's going to have some impact on his team.
I absolutely love it. Now, I know we already talked about Logan Thomas before, but I had this kind of put you on a spot question. Who will have more touchdowns this season, Felix? Logan Thomas, Curtis Samuel, or Antonio Gibson?
That's a good one. If I had to pick my gut, it would be Curtis Samuel. But if I had to rank the 3, it would probably be Samuel, Logan, Antonio Gibson. Not a knock on any of these guys.
I got you.
We know how the tight ends work, and Kelce was always the best weapon on the field. But Samuel is going to be, the 3rd best on given plays? Maybe the 4th? So when you get multiple weapons like that, if you go back and watch Kansas City's offense, and you even when Tyreek was there and Kelce, and then all of a sudden, wow, I forgot he was out there. Next thing you know, he's wide open. So there's only so many you can contain. So I just think Samuel's going to get a lot of those burst plays, like a lot of those, we've been doing this, and oh, wow, we forgot about Curtis, and he's over here. I think Logan's going to get a decent amount. And I think Robinson's going to start getting a little bit more of the goal line rushing stuff, but Antonio Gibson will get some receiver stuff out of the backfield. So if I had to rank it, I would go Curtis, Logan, then Antonio Gibson as far as touchdowns. Not touchdowns, but touchdowns.
Hey, look, I made it like really difficult on purpose, Felix. I really do appreciate your breakdown. I think it's a great one. But speaking of Antonio Gibson, one rumor that has been floating around there is that Kareem Hunt could be coming to Washington with that connection to Eric Bieniemy. Have you heard anything of the sort, and do you think that would actually be a good fit here?
I've heard some teasers about it. I know I have some fans that are really in for that talent level. Kareem has a talent level that he knows the offense very well. That's going to be his advantage. But B, he's a different type of back than B-Rob and Antonio Gibson. So if they went and got Kareem Hunt, it's not going to affect Antonio Gibson or Brian Robertson. It's going to affect whoever's going to be that third guy. And Chris Rodriguez has had a rough transition So that would be where that would fit in because you could use Kareem Hunt on all three downs, and he just knows the offense very well. So I do think there's smoke. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Kareem might be looking for somewhere where it's a little bit more solidified running back job because even coming in, people have to understand that it's B-Rob's job with Gibson as the spell guy.
Right.
So you're coming in, you'd be a third guy. So I think he's kind of holding out hope that maybe some training camp, someone picks him up or something like that. But there is some smoke to that rumor.
Okay, I like to hear that. I mean, we talked about it earlier because Kareem Hunt is kind of weird with that, but I would understand the fit just because of Eric Bieniemy, right? And I don't want to push it too much, but let's bring this off the field, Felix. Looks like Josh Harris has invested into Gibbs Racing. This wasn't really expected on my behalf, but it is good to see that Josh Harris is investing into Gibbs Racing, which is a very successful product because obviously he wants to see some production, right?
Right. So that did catch people off guard. A lot of people are moving in the NASCAR into those secondary sport investments. MJ has started a racing team himself. Some other guys have started some investment in NASCAR, so it's good. It's good for that. And I mean, it's great for this fan base because Joe Gibbs is always going to be that number one.
Right.
So, you have him, Josh Harris, one on that. That's kind of a community thing and just kind of have things across the line. So I think it's a good move. It was kind of an unexpected move, but I like it just because it just tying Gibbs back to the franchise is always going to be a plus for anybody.
Absolutely. And now we are joined by my co-host, Michael Reed. How are you doing, brother? Do you have a question for Felix pertaining to the defense?
To the defense, I was going to ask him about the Titan submersible. I was going to ask him on his thoughts on that, but
isn't that crazy?
That's nuts.
It's insane. Like I just don't. I like adventure, but there's limits, and
right, yeah.
Limit. I'm not.
I like adventure. I wouldn't go parachuting with a Toys R Us bag. Like I don't know. I like adventure too, but if I'm gonna die, like I don't know. Yeah, go.
I was gonna say to wrap this up, Felix. I only have a couple more for you, but I have another one of those on the spot questions for you. Who has the most tackle for losses this season out of Jamin Davis, Quan Martin, or Chase Young?
Jamin Davis. And Jamin, last year, the light bulb went on. So I think now with a full healthy front four, you're going out there with your monsters at the front four. He can just fly. And I think it was understood that if we just let him fly, he can make plays. He's just, I mean, we drafted him because he was a superior athlete. Let him be an athlete. Don't let him be a middle linebacker. Let him be an athlete. And so I think he will just because of kind of the things we'll see. I still see Chase getting he's going to require a lot of attention. So that's going to limit his numbers a bit. And plus he's lined up next to three other studs too. So I think Jamin just by default will get the most tackle for losses.
All right. And then
Jamin seemed last year, he seemed like he blew up a lot of screens and stuff. He always seemed to be playing those well. So
yeah, athletic. Just boom. I see a read or I see this guard read. I'm gone.
Right.
Go make the play.
And he does a really good job with that. Now, what is your prediction for who wins the starting left guard spot for week 1 against Arizona?
See, Charles is doing well. And I've said for years that he was a guard and not a tackle. And I think we've done that with a lot of people. Then we tackle. Then last year we saw how important a guard was, and he didn't have enough reps there. I think being all in on guard helps Sadiq Charles. So I would give him the slight edge. If they lined up tomorrow, he would be the starter, which would not be a bad thing at all.
It wouldn't. Now, last question I have for you, sir. Tress Way, he's going into his 10th season, Felix. Kind of talk about Tress Way and how many more years do you think that he can play? I mean, because he's still at the top of his game.
And I think each year he comes up, I think what keeps him alive or keep him, he comes up with a new little skill each year. And he was never getting the recognition, never getting the recognition. We all in Washington were screaming his name and no one cared. And then he finally got some recognition. Tress, I think at this level, another 5 years easy. At this level, at this peak level, of course, barring any major injury, but at this level, another 5 years, because I think his punting just affects the game too much, and he's not a power guy. Like some guys are just power guys; they're just ripping. So eventually, a hip or quad, something's gonna go. But he's just so smooth with his motion. I think that's why I feel like he's going to be at that peak for a while. So I'd say another 5 years at that level. But it's amazing that it's been 10 years already. But he just continues to amaze. And Twitter banner all day. Heck, Tressway is our best player. And there was times when that was a very accurate statement.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Felix, I can't thank you enough for joining us before this beautiful weekend. Hopefully some sunshine rolls around. I can't thank you enough, brother, for coming in and being able to talk to us for a little bit. Have a good night, brother. Enjoy your weekend.
No problem. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Felix. Have a good one.
Felix.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Felix Trammell. Hey, what's going on, Michael? How you doing?
What's up, man? My bad. It took me a while. For some reason, my microphone wasn't connecting for the longest time. I was like, God damn it.
It's all good. And then Howell he went to a job site late to do a delivery. He's on his way back. He is hoping to jump on here at some point. But now we are joined by our next guest for the remainder of this episode, our guy, Mr. Manny Chokuba. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Manny. I'm on vacation, still coming back in a couple days, but I can't complain. I'm out here with the family, but I will say, like an hour before we started recording, like Cash wasn't feeling well and he just vomited all over the floor. So for the past 45 minutes, I've just been cleaning up like puke and everything, and then him taking a bath and a shower, which is hysterical because he's never taken a shower before.
Yeah, I was about to say his mind was probably blown.
But he sat there and he loved it. And the crazy thing is like whenever I don't feel good, that's what I do is I just sit in the shower and just sit there for about 30 minutes. And he'd never seen me do it, but he loves it too. So no doubt that is my son. Right. Without a doubt. But Manny, I got to get your opinion, brother, because we talked before, and I do want to get your opinion on fantasy football. A lot of people might say this might be too early for fantasy football, but I say that's illegal to say that because fantasy football is year-round. Isn't that right, Manny?
Absolutely.
Who are some names that are some guys that you are personally targeting in fantasy football drafts? Let's just say standard PPR, not your IDP leagues or the crazy dual quarterback leagues, just your standard regular fantasy. Who are some players you're really targeting this year?
Okay, so if we're talking running backs, I like to get these guys a little later. So if we're talking redraft, right? Mm-hmm. Give me guys like Charbonnet. Zach Charbonnet, I think he's going to have a role, especially if you're playing PPR. You say standard or PPR? Just standard, right?
PPR or standard, whatever you'd like.
Okay. So I love PPR because it makes running backs more, relevant. So a guy like Zach Charbonnet, he's going to have an opportunity to catch a lot of passes in that offense. Bringing in JSN, Gino having a great year last year. It just screams he's the back that's going to take over that backfield eventually. Kenneth Walker's great, so I like guys like Charbonnet. At first, I was going after a guy like Devin Achane before the whole Dalvin Cook thing. So now with Dalvin Cook coming in, it's like, but I'm gonna love whoever that gets the bulk of the work with the Dolphins. I believe that backfield has opportunity for running back. So whether it's Devin Achane, whether it's Dalvin Cook, and then also lastly, a underrated backfield. Nobody's talking about is the Washington Commanders.
Yes.
These guys, they're going to be so cheap because nobody wants to deal with Antonio Gibson drama or the Robinson. And then I'm handcuffing Brian Robinson with a guy like Rodriguez, especially in dynasty leagues. Late. He's a guy that you can grab him for free. He's going to go undrafted. You hear me? Yeah, he's going to go undrafted. So that Washington backfield, there's potential for some major points. I think that Brian Robinson Jr. is going to have a touchdown upside. And then you're going to have a guy like Antonio Gibson catching some passes, doing some work. And you can see both guys potentially being double-figure points per game type guys.
Right.
My question. So I've been without my phone, Reed. I just want a stupid question. I've been without my phone. So imagine that I'm literally on a mountain with no service at all. Where did Dalvin Cook signed with Miami?
Not yet.
Okay.
He hasn't signed yet. I'm seeing something that's saying that they're working on a contract.
Right? Yeah. Dude, him and that offense with Mike McDaniels, that's a terrifying, that's a fast offense. But somebody that's interested me in, I mean, he interests everybody, but I haven't dove too deep into fantasy, but like when I've seen like the preseason mocks and like all this stuff, Bijan Robinson is always slanted really high. And of course, we get it. The dude is a freak of nature. He's talented as hell. But what is it about him in that Atlanta offense? And can you put all your eggs in that rookie basket that high early on?
Absolutely. So let's talk redraft for just a second. Yeah. In redraft leagues, Bijan Robinson will be a first-round pick.
Right.
Think of the year when Christian McCaffrey got drafted, or think of the year Saquon Barkley is a perfect example.
Yep.
A lot of people were not buying the hype because it's redraft, it's a rookie. We can't trust these rookies. Yes, you can trust these rookies. These rookies are the best within their first 4 years of
look at Zeke.
League.
Yeah,
look at Zeke. It's a perfect example. So for me, I'm grabbing a guy like Bijan Robinson at the end of the first round in redraft. So let's say pick 12 or on that swing 201.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm targeting Bijan Robinson. Last year, I targeted Breece Hall in the 4th round of redraft leagues.
Yeah.
And he was killing it. So the value and where you're getting these rookies is amazing. He's going to be a guy that's going to be a 3-down back.
Kenneth Walker, too, to your point.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker. Absolutely. So, but the difference between Bijan Robinson and Kenneth Walker and some of these other guys is that Bijan Robinson could potentially be a first-round pick in a 12-man league in redraft. In Dynasty, this guy is going as early as pick 7, pick 8 in these Dynasty leagues that I've been in. I've done like maybe up to 20, 30 Dynasty startup leagues so far this offseason. Don't judge me.
I love it, man.
Fantasy never dies.
Yeah.
It never dies. But yeah, the hype for Bijan Robinson is real. I believe he's going to have a crazy good season, and we're looking at a top 7 performance this year.
Talk to me about, because the funny thing is with Arthur Smith, he was the offensive coordinator back in Tennessee when they had Derrick Henry. They fed Derrick Henry immensely. Do you not think that Arthur Smith is going to do the same exact thing with Bijan Robinson? Of course they are. And without
the running game was awesome last year. I mean, look at what they did to us when we played the Falcons. The Falcons ran all over us all day.
And I remember after that Ron Rivera 2-to-1 ratio run pass concept was brought up, the Falcons ran more than we did last season. Just to show you that, you should buy in on Bijan Robinson. But sticking with that offense, just briefly, talk to you about Kyle Pitts and your expectations for him this year. I really like Desmond Ridder coming out of that rookie draft, and him as a second-year quarterback. He kind of just looks like the mold of a pro quarterback. Getting that new Bijan Robinson, having Drake London out there, what are your expectations with that connection with Kyle Pitts? Can fantasy owners feel confident with Kyle Pitts?
Well, Kyle Pitts for me is more of a dynasty thing. I usually look at tight ends, potential breakouts within years 3, 4. Sometimes you get guys who come out like Kyle Pitts and gets 1,000 yards in his first year. He didn't get the touchdown upside. So it's kind of like, what are we doing here? Like he produced, but he didn't produce. So with this new offense, having Desmond Ridder, having Bijan Robinson, you have to keep the defense honest. Now you can kind of play action and boom, you hit Kyle Pitts up the middle. He can take it 70 yards. So this is make or break gear for Kyle Pitts. I'm buying a lot of Kyle Pitts in Dynasty. I don't know what he's going to do. I think this could be the year. They do have better quarterback play, and that offense as a whole should be pretty special. So I'm buying Kyle Pitts more in Dynasty than.
Okay, I got you. Sorry, Reed.
Go ahead, Cole. No, you're good.
And I was just going to ask you, because last offseason, like Jalen Hurts was not drafted highly, right? It was you picked him late, and you were very happy about that. Who was a quarterback this season that you could see doing that? Man, not to level of Jalen Hurts, because obviously he was in the running for MVP, but just a quarterback that's going to be late rounds that you think is going to be highly productive.
Okay, so if we're talking redraft, usually what I like to do is I like to get my quarterbacks late. I use this strategy where if it's a 12-man league, right, if everybody drafts a quarterback, there's at least 12 elite-type quarterbacks that can produce high level, especially when you have the quarterbacks that run the ball. When they run the ball, you have higher upside because each 10 yards is 1 point. opposed to throwing 25 yards for 1 point.
Right.
So I look at these running guys. So if we want to talk about a guy who could be that next Jalen Hurts or even say Justin Fields, it could be Anthony Richardson. Now, I'm not an Anthony Richardson guy in Dynasty because I am afraid. I'm like, I don't know if this guy can pass. But when you're talking redraft, you want that upside. You want that guy that can run the ball. If you're telling me my quarterback has a chance to rush for 700 yards like Daniel Jones did last year and was and he was a top 7, top 9 QB, sign me up. Anthony Richardson is a guy that's not – he's going to go like QB 15, QB 16, QB 17 in redraft. He's going to be drafted next to out. Sometimes he's going to go undrafted sometimes. And that's a guy you want to target, even if he's your second QB, or you draft him at QB 12, and then he has an upside to give you that Jalen Hurts type of numbers. Or look at Justin Fields. He had 17 touchdowns, 11 picks, but he rushed for 1,100 yards. And because he rushed for 1,100 yards, that made him QB 7 overall. So Anthony Richardson, man, definitely has the upside.
And with Anthony Richardson, like, you really think that, like, with his passing not being that advanced and him just not having that much experience, you really think that they're not going to run him and try to find creative ways to get him out on the field. But another, I mean, I hate to bring up rookies so much, but another rookie that I think is interesting, because I think the NFL was higher on him coming out than a lot of the media was. And we know that based off of where he was drafted. And that's Jahmyr Gibbs up there in Detroit. Detroit's got a very interesting backfield. Their offense is super interesting this year. I think Detroit is a very good team. What are your expectations for Jahmyr Gibbs, and are these Alvin Kamara comparisons? Are they valid?
Yes, he's legit, and he's going to a legit offense. One thing I look at when I look at running backs is draft capital. How many running backs do you know go in the top 12 or go in the top 15 of the actual NFL draft? So when these teams actually go out there and grab a Bijan Robinson or grab a Jahmyr Gibbs, you best believe they are going to be force-fed. And when you get these special elite, I think both guys are elite generational type talent guys, he is going to catch passes. He is going to run the ball. And in terms of total touches, you should see him with total touches. He's going to be up there with some of the elite backs in terms of touches. Now, what he does with his touches, can he stay healthy? Can he be Alvin Kamara, prime Alvin Kamara, or will he be a DeAndre Swift? Can't stay healthy. So that's the whole thing. Health is very important when you look at these running backs. But I think this guy is in a great offense, and he's going to get tons of touches. I'm excited about Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, even Jamal Williams last season wasn't their number one running back, but produced heavily in fantasy football. So you should feel good with Jahmyr Gibbs. I love talking to Manny about this. Last fantasy question I have for you before we get into our fan questions. Even though this is a Commanders podcast, I know you're a Commanders fan. Are you worried, concerned, a little bit pulled back on drafting Washington's wide receivers in fantasy football?
Nope, I am grabbing all the Terry McLaurin. I think I had my Terry McLaurin prediction the other day, and it was outrageous. I can't even remember what it was, but he's going to have well over 100 receptions. You're looking at over 1,200, 1,300 yards. All these things are feasible with an improved quarterback. He has a chance to have a career high in touchdowns this year. If any of these three things happen, or all three things happen, you're looking at Terry McLaurin as a top 7 wide receiver in Dynasty, in redraft, in any format. So I'm excited for Terry. Jahan Dotson is a guy in redraft you can grab super late. And in Dynasty, he's going at least in rounds 7 through 9, if you're lucky. So both guys I'm excited about. I think both guys are going to eat in this offense. And everybody's sleeping on Sam Howell. He might not get you the yards, but he has the upside to get you 30 touchdowns. I know it sounds crazy. You can say, oh, he's a homer. But I really see Sam Howell as a guy that's going to run for some touchdowns this year. So he has a touchdown upside. Might not have the yard upside, but I love both of our wide receivers. Curtis Samuel, do not touch him.
Yeah, dude, Manny, it's all good, Manny. You could be a homer, back on the block. They call me Homer Simpson. Obviously.
Real fast before we get into the fan questions, it's crazy how it seems like all the media and the rest, really the rest of the country, every NFL fan, everybody sleeps on Jahan Dotson. It's like we have this secret that nobody knows about. Like they don't realize how good he is.
And he looked like he bulked up in this offseason as well, which is going to be vital for him, just being able to contested catches and whatnot. If he's just adding muscle to his frame, already a skillful athlete, it's going to be sky's the limit for Jahan.
Remember last year during camp, it was like him and Terry are like neck and neck. Like those two dudes they're bad. They're both bad dudes.
In 12 games, he had what, 7 touchdowns?
Yeah.
So imagine what he's going to be able to do in 16 games, hopefully with a consistent quality 17 games, with a consistent quality passer there throughout. I'm praying that we don't have those tumultuous quarterback situations going on, Manny. But let's move on to our fan questions, Manny. I want to go to you first. This one was from the Colonel. I haven't had my phone for a couple of days, so luckily my wife just brought me her phone that the Colonel sent in these questions. He asks, Logan Thomas is reportedly 100% healthy. What will that mean for him in our tight end room under Eric Bieniemy?
I mean, if you know me, if you talk to me, you know that I'm not thrilled. I'm not excited about this tight end room. I don't know what Logan Thomas has to offer. I think Logan Thomas is done. I could be wrong. He's a guy that you have to scheme open. He's not about to run and create for himself. He's just not that kind of player, at least right now in this stage of his career. But if he is healthy, to answer the question, I think he can produce in the offense. It's an offense where if you're open, Sam Howell is so accurate. He's going to hit you, especially when he slants. Sam Howell throws a good ball. It's going to be about how he processes the line, defense coming at him, pressure. How does he handle pressure? We only saw a small sample size, which was one game. If Logan Thomas is healthy, he could produce, but don't expect the year when he had a great stat line. That year, he was the number 2 receiver outside of Terry. This year, you're looking at Logan Thomas as the number 4, maybe number 5 option in that offense. So, I just don't know what to tell you. He's going to produce, but not at a high level like everyone is thinking.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean by that, Manny, because I'm looking at it in the way of saying I don't expect Logan Thomas to have a big statistical season in the way that you would see in Travis Kelce, other tight ends, but he's going to be heavily utilized on those third down and longs in the red zone, going to eat up what he needs to. Eric Bieniemy is going to use Logan Thomas at his advantage, unlike he was used last season, where they're going to use him in space and be able to get him matched up on players that cannot defend against him. Yes, he cannot gain separation a lot on defenders, but he does have height on those guys. And that's when those sort of situations can help you. Logan Thomas, the reason why his stats aren't that great, but for some reason we overvalue him, is because all of his catches that he gets are important. It's long third downs. It's those touchdowns. It's those red zone, extending the plays. And Logan does that so well. And I think Eric Bieniemy is going to capitalize on that. And I hope that he has a plan for each of these tight ends in their usage. Obviously, we shouldn't be running wide tight end screens with Logan, so to speak. And I don't expect it to happen with Eric Bieniemy. What about you, Reed?
Yep. I could see him actually having a decent year, at least in terms of like the amount of receptions. Will he have a lot of yards? I don't know, but he could have a decent amount of touchdowns again, similar to that first year. Just having the threats of Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, kind of spreading out the defense. That'll leave the middle. That should leave the middle wide open for him and get those short passes. Hopefully, he can become safety blanket for Sam Howell. But again, like we said, we overvalue him. I think because he did pretty well during that run that we had, or at least we beat the Steelers and stuff when they were undefeated, and Logan Thomas did pretty well fantasy wise towards the end of that season. So it's going to be interesting. I hope he comes back healthy because I do want to see what he can do. He's still raw as a tight end, but he's got the athleticism. And I don't know if you guys know this, the guy used to play quarterback at Virginia Tech and in the NFL. So nobody knows that. Nobody talks about it.
Yeah, just talked to Felix earlier, Trammell, about Logan Thomas, and he used the word energetic. He looked energized when he was out there for minicamp and OTAs, which is great news because I brought up, Manny, the fact that he's not great at creating separation, but that energy could help in that sort of regard, right? And maybe he hasn't had that over the past couple seasons. But let's move to what do you got?
Yeah, last thing I'm going to say about the tight end room, my sleeper is Cole Turner. So that's why I'm more excited about Cole Turner than I am Logan Thomas. So I don't know what's going to happen.
It's terrifying. It's scary good.
Yep.
Like the things, remember last year during camp, he was all the talk for a while. It was, this guy's going to be good. Then, things didn't shake out that well.
Right.
But
that's my boy, man. That's my boy. Now, real quick, Reed, before we get into this next question, if you could do me a huge favor, if you could go on Twitter and look up my post for the fan questions today. Scott Hartley and some others had submitted some, and I don't have access to any phone to be able to get to it right now.
only if you say, pull that up, Jamie.
Pull that up, Jamie. But this next question I have is from Tim Towner or Tony Shivers in the Discord chat server, Manny. His question is, if Leno or Wiley get dinged, are you confident in Cornelius Lucas?
Yes, I am. I think he's a quality backup. I think he's one of the better backups in the league. I mean, he's a guy that has starters experience. He's a guy that has stepped in when people have gotten hurt. Now, what I was waiting for at the end of the question was Sadiq Charles. I would have said no, but yeah, Cornelius Lucas, yes. I mean, he's a pretty decent swing tackle, and I am confident in him being that third tackle for us if we were in that position. Yeah.
I think that the language used by Tony here is very detailed, and it being dinged meaning that it won't be long for him to have to come back, right? Or Wiley. So if I'm looking in that breath, then yes, I am confident that Cornelius Lucas could hold over the right tackle or left tackle spot for about, let's say, 3 weeks. But if we're saying that Leno or Wiley get injured in week 4, I am petrified of what that means for the left tackle, right tackle spot for the next 10 weeks to the end of the season, because that's bad news bears. But for the immediate confidence, yes, I am confident that he'd be able to step in and start and be good in a moment's notice. We've seen it before. You have confidence in him. He's been in this system, and you feel good about him as the backup tackle there, but just not for a long period of time. In my personal opinion, obviously I could be massively wrong here, but it's just personally from what I've seen, it's not like you see dominance out there, and it's not something that really is confidence building, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't remember what the question was. I was too busy trying to remember my Twitter password.
You're fine. The question was, if Leno or Wiley get dinged, are you confident in Cornelius Lucas?
Ooh. So Cornelius Lucas is funny to me because there was a time, at least for a year or two, where he was considered a very, very good swing tackle. I mean, he did a pretty good job last season. Of course, I mean, he's had issues, but am I confident? I mean, not about you could be.
Man, dude, the sound is messing all up. You're all over the place right now.
I mean, just looking at him, the dude's 6'8".
Keep going.
Okay, well, then keep going. No, you're good. I'm fine. I mean, I'm about as confident as you can be with the backup tackle in there.
That's my fault. It's the Wi-Fi going crazy on me. But sorry, everybody. You just completely botched Reed's response with Cornelius Lucas. But
I didn't say literally anything of any substance, so it doesn't matter. All I said is he's a backup tackle, so I guess.
All right. Now, look, going to our next question, Tim Towner in the Discord chat server. Manny, when looking at defensive metrics, what matters more? Yards per game, points per game, turnovers, or third down succession rate?
He has points per game. Yeah. You limit the other team from scoring. I mean, that's big. Like, you can say third downs, you can say situational football. There's different factors, right? That you can say prejudice. For me, is if you're limiting teams from scoring over, let's say, 17 points. Like, if you're limiting teams to 17 points, man, your chances of winning is great if you have an offense that can produce 20 to 21 points a game. So, yes, I'll say points.
For me, it is third down succession rate. I know that they were number 1 last season, but I know that they have really harped on turnovers this offseason. But my whole thing was the big reason why the defense still wasn't considered like top or elite was because the offense wasn't doing enough to be able to supplement them and with points and being able to win these cushions and show how good they were defensively. I think the third down succession rate is most important than anything. How many punts are you forcing? Are you getting off the field, giving the ball back to your offense? And obviously you could have like drives that don't come to third down that end up in touchdowns, but does that really happen every single game? And against this defense, I don't think so. So as much as I know that they are harping on turnovers to make everything easier for Sam Howell, I think what matters most, first and foremost, is that third down succession rate and maintaining that number 1. Because if you're able to do that, give the ball back to Sam Howell multiple times as much as possible every single game, you're cooking with gas there.
Yeah. That's also. I mean, the points per game. I mean, that's got to be the biggest thing, right? Because I mean, just as you talked about last year. If we were scoring points, if we were one of the top offenses of the NFL, we would have won a lot more games. So I think that's got to be up there the most important. Hold on, I got to switch something out. Hold up. one
No,
of my
you're
cords.
fine. Now, this next question from Tim Towner, Manny. If you ran into Eric Bieniemy and you were able to ask him one question pertaining to the offense, what would it be?
I would ask him, who is your playmaker? Who is the guy when you need a third down conversion? Where is the ball going to? Are you going to put Terry in a slot to get him more opportunities? Like who is your guy? What is your go-to play? Who is your guy? Just to keep it short.
I got you. I would ask him, "Are you ready to kick some ass?" I'm tired of losing. I asked the same thing to Carson Wentz last year at training camp when we saw him, and I said, "Will you please kick some ass this year?" And he was like, "That's the plan." And so I hope that Eric Bieniemy would have a better response than "That's the plan," in my personal opinion. Just because it kind of was weird, and then Parker threw it all out the ram with everything that he said. But the next question from Tim Towner, Manny, who is your least favorite player in the NFL? For him personally, it's Jalen Hurts.
And for me, it was Ezekiel Elliott. But now he's done. I mean, his career is almost done.
What do you think is going to happen with him?
Man, I think he's going to end up on a random team, kind of like Tampa Bay. He's going to go to a backfield where he's going to be a complement to whatever they got going on. They love Rashad White with the Bucs. So it's going to be a situation where he's like a big brother mentor to a younger back. But I'm like, who has those kinds of openings? Miami? That's about to be locked up. That's be a team like the Bucs or one of these teams, maybe Minnesota. Minnesota, that could be a perfect situation. Out Dalvin Cook, in Ezekiel Elliott. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's going to be weird. It's going to be a three-headed backfield wherever he ends up.
Oh, man, who's my least favorite player in the NFL? I mean, it's really hard to say because, like, there's not really anybody that, like, rubs me the wrong way, really, or
Cowboys?
Who?
Trayvon Diggs?
It's not Trayvon. I don't think Trayvon does anything wrong. I think that he's supposed to play the way that he's supposed to play, and that's by trying to piss off the wide receivers, right? And we want our corners doing the same exact thing to them.
Right.
You know, like, I'm not going to get mad at Trayvon. He knows the way the NFL works and everything like that. I guess if there's anybody that – honestly, the only person I really disliked a lot was Tony Romo, and obviously he's not playing anymore.
I feel you.
But just because Tony was just like – you couldn't just stop the guy. But
I got a name for you.
What do you got?
Avon Thibodeau.
Yeah, you're right because he did talk crap after that game too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
he's annoying, man.
Dude, and being on Twitter and being who was it? He said who was Joe Thomas. He was like, nobody knows who you are. That's one of the best offensive tackles of all time. What are you talking about?
Disrespect.
Like, know your shit, dude.
Disrespect, man.
Yeah.
It just shows you that he's just an ignorant young man, and he had a very good game, and he was feeling very on top of himself, and I'm glad that he was able to get his stat line for the year in one game. But, that doesn't really matter to me. Is there one player in the NFL, Reed, that you highly dislike? For Tim Towner, it's Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, see, it's hard because there's some players that I want to hate, but I can't. Like, I can't hate Dak. I can't hate Jalen Hurts. I want to, but I can't. I mean, I hate him because he's annoying, but I don't think I really hate anybody in the NFL right now. I used to hate OBJ for sure. I hated OBJ when he was with the Giants because he was so good, but he was such a douchebag.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I don't know, getting into a fight with a kicking net, his rivalry with Josh Norman. And that was annoying. But OBJ doesn't bug me anymore because he doesn't do anything. If he was still good, he'd probably piss me off. But
the kicking net. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting him crying. It's just Odell. So funny. Now this next question from Twitter is from Ty Mac, our boy T Mac on Twitter. Thank you, brother. His question, Manny, is: will Emmanuel Forbes, the first-round pick, lead the team in INTs this season?
I would say no. This is why. Number one, he's a rookie. Number two, he's going to be on the boundary a lot. These are not excuses. I just think it's going to be Derek Forrest. I just think that Derek Forrest is going to be the cleanup guy. There's going to be tipped balls. And guess who's around tipped balls? A lot of safeties, a lot of linebackers. I think Derek Forrest is going to lead this team in interceptions. But Emmanuel Forbes will have at least 3 to 4 interceptions this year. 1 6.
I do think I agree with you. I do not think that Forbes will lead in INTs, but I do think that he will lead in pass deflections. I think his length will definitely help him in being able to recover. I don't think that he's going to mentally be on top of every route. He's going to have to recover some. He's not going to be in the same position he was at Mississippi State. He's going to have to get caught up. He's going to have to really show himself. But I do think his length is going to help him out a lot in those pass deflections. I would expect that. The Derek Forrest pick with INTs is phenomenal. I think that's a great selection because Derek has really proven to be a playmaker in that back end, and it's something that they have lacked of. From here on out. So Derek Forrest is a great selection. The other one I would say, and to lead in INTs, is Jonathan Allen.
Yeah,
He's
John
got
Allen. I'm gonna say yes with Emmanuel Forbes. I think that if you just look at the team last year, that's something that we've struggled with for a long time. I think that's Emmanuel Forbes' bread and butter. I think that you've kind of seen the way that he plays the ball so far early. I know it's early, but
yeah, you love it when you see that.
I do love it. Okay, Kyle, that's disgusting. But no, I think that Emmanuel Forbes, that's the reason he's brought in here. And am I saying he's going to be a lockdown corner, one of the best in the NFL? No.
Yes.
But I mean, remember that used to happen with D Hall all the time. D'Angelo Hall would get a shit ton of interceptions, so you get burned. Emmanuel Forbes will probably get burned early on. He's not Sauce Gardner, but I do think he will end up leading the team in interceptions.
D Hall just could never get the double moves down. Just every single time.
There's a few things D Hall just couldn't get down. It was like so frustrating because it was like, dude, you could be so good.
It always reminds me of my boy Hizer, who used to hate D Hall. He wanted him cut every single year simply because one time he was waiting in line at Subway in a long line, and D Hall pulled up in their handicap spot, got out, and jumped the line all the way in front. And since that day, he's hated D'Angelo Hall. So, but next question from Scott Hartley is on Twitter. Oi, thank you, brother. You get the chance to address the team, Manny. What's the one piece of advice you would give?
I would say, please start. Please, no more slow starts. Let's get some wins. In 6 games, give me 3 wins, man. It's not asking for a lot. That's 500. Just get off to a fast start, whether it's defensively, whether it's offensively. Go through camp, get on your job, be on your game, work on your craft. So that way, when the season is here, you're not trying to figure things out the first 5, 6, 7 weeks, and then we're trying to run the table to make the playoffs. No, so fast start.
The one piece of advice, if I were able to address the team, I would say to them to have tunnel vision, because I know it's hard to do. You have family, you have friends, you have things that you want to do, and I get it. But the only way that we're going to be successful here in Washington with this new, just one of the best coaching staffs that you can have in the NFL, this is a very valuable time for this football team. Give me tunnel vision throughout this year, all the way through February. Just everything, just working on getting better. And I know there's extra stuff that you want to do and everything, but mentally you cannot allow yourself to absorb any negative energy, to be worrying about what anybody else does. Just focus on tunnel vision. Just worry about getting better every single day and trust this coaching staff to put you in a good position. Everyone buy in, one tunnel, one train, just get through it, and just don't have any outside noise. Let's just all be in the same room together and all with one eyesight looking ahead onto what matters most, and that's for this football team to be successful.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, kind of relating to what you said, just consistency. Just please be consistent. Just do it. I want to see full 4 quarters. I don't want to see Detroit last year where it's like the first half we just get dog stomped and then we come out and play well and give us a little bit of hope, but it's not enough. It happens so often where the first quarter, it kind of relates back to what both of you guys are saying, starting fast and having tunnel vision, because like every year it's like Ron Rivera teams with us. They just suck in the first half. It's just, they come out dead. They come out, I don't know what it is, whether they just lack confidence or what, but look, sticking feathers in your ass does not make you a chicken. Okay. You gotta just go with it. And you got to do it. So,
but why do you, no, never mind.
That's a quote from Fight Club, dog.
I know, but it's a great, I was going to ask you then, why do you keep doing it? Now to wrap this up,
I
guys,
identify as a chicken, Kyle.
I know you do. To wrap this up, last thing I have, this episode is called Summer Nights. I'm on vacation. I asked Hall on Monday what his favorite vacation memory is, but let's say maybe not best vacation memory, but like Manny, for you, what is a perfect summer night? Maybe if you are on vacation.
Man, I would say kicking it in the back porch, bonfire, or pit, fire pit going, roasting some marshmallows with the kids, having a little drink, just enjoying the breeze and some music.
I like that a lot, man. I'm right there with you. I love the whole deck scene. I'm an old man at heart. What about you, Reed?
Mine every summer since I was a kid, up until last year, 2 years ago, we would go up to Bethany Beach with like my entire family, like my grandparents, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles. So probably doing that with just everybody in my family and stuff, and just being able to sit out there at night and just hang out and not worry about anything, not stress because you're on vacation for 2 weeks or whatever it is. That was always good. You know what I'm saying? And then you get the drinks flowing, and then all of a sudden, it's a good time all the time.
It is. I would say personally for me, it definitely would be sitting outside with a beautiful view with my wife and kids. And we had actually a wiffle ball game going the other night. And I think
did you?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's cool to everyone get around.
Did you strike out cash?
Yeah, I did actually. But
you did? Did you feel bad?
I did feel bad.
Like,
I did. I was like pulling. I was like, run to first base, run to first base. It's not. He'll
You're
get
throwing
it.
him knuckleballs, weren't you? You're throwing him curves.
I was striking people. You should have seen some of my hits. So I wanted people to record it, just so I could post it. Like, look at it.
That's the thing that you can't like pitch to a kid and like have a wiffle ball and not actually like throw something. Like,
right.
You can't hit it. You can't hit it.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode. This has been one crazy episode just because I haven't had my phone all week, and so usually that's my form of communication. So being able to get all this gel together for this episode was really hard to do, but thank goodness for people like Manny Chokuba who takes time out of their day to be able to come on here late notice to be able to do this with us. I can't thank you enough, man. You do such a great job with your fantasy football show, then the Commanders show. I know you kind of changed the name, but if you can just update us real quick on everything you got going on.
Absolutely. You guys can check me out at Talking Commanders with Manny podcast. You guys can check me out on YouTube, Talking Sports with Manny. All of my stuff is funneled through there. It's a buffet table. Grab what you like, throw away the rest. I got a lot of fantasy stuff coming up. I also have a new fantasy podcast called Dynasty Overload, and that's more dynasty based. Got some great co-hosts with me, Shelor and Razman. So definitely check out the YouTube channel. It's going to send you to all the different things I got going on.
Has anybody made a fantasy podcast? Has anybody made a fantasy podcast called Dynasty Warriors? I feel like that's a good play on words. I would like that. You ever played that game?
That's a nice
one. It was on PlayStation 2.
Maybe
Dynasty
we could make
Warriors.
like one.
You guys aren't cool.
No, but maybe we could make a fantasy podcast around Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit and the Shire and stuff.
You're stupid. All right.
I'm actually in a league called Dynasty Warriors.
Are you? Okay, there you go. So there you go. So somebody ask him about that game. He'll tell you it's an amazing game. All right. Manny, I seriously can't thank you enough, dude. But before we get out of here, would you just like to plug your social media handles and your new podcast handle?
Absolutely. You guys can catch me at Manny Chokuba. That's MannyChokuba. You guys can also check me out at TS with Manny on Twitter as well. And last, at Dynasty Overload.
My man. Manny, I really can't thank you enough, brother. You are a saint and a godsend. Reed, you're all right. You're okay, I guess.
No, I'm not.
All right, everybody. We'll catch you again on Monday. Have a beautiful, safe weekend. Really do enjoy it if you can. We'll see you guys then. I'm Kyle.
I'm what's that guy's name? The NFL draft scout.
Daniel
I forget
Kelly?
his name all the time. I'm Daniel Kelly. Yeah.
Good job. All right,
and I'm Manny.
We'll see you guys on Monday. Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.